Wild boars, who are frequently misunderstood as peaceful woodland residents, have emerged as one of the most destructive forces that pose a threat to farmlands and forests across Europe and North America. The look of these creatures belies the fact that they are not merely wild animals that are allowed to roam. Rather, they are formidable, swift, moving monsters who are capable of wreaking severe damage. It is also possible for them to be dangerous when provoked. Wild boars are responsible for more than $2.50 billion worth of damage to agricultural facilities each and every year. This figure takes into account that crops have been destroyed, irrigation systems have been broken, local wildlife habitats have been disrupted, and in some extremely rare and tragic instances, direct hazards to human safety have been found. Homes had been destroyed, trees had been cut down, and roads had been reduced to muddy trails in Madison, Mississippi, which was already a region that had been devastated by a tornado that occurred not long before. On the other hand, what transpired after that was even more concerning. Attracted by the aroma of freshly exposed soil and unguarded fields, which were now susceptible due to the absence of fencing or barriers, a large number of wild boars raced through the region during the night. In order to keep these animals under control, both conventional approaches and cutting-edge technology are being utilized. There are some teams who operate sophisticated traps that are equipped with infrared cameras and motion sensors that are connected to mobile devices. Utilizing these technologies, hunters are able to remotely activate a trap whenever a group of animals enters the area that has been specified for them. On the other hand, technology is not always trustworthy, particularly in areas that have been affected by a disaster, where signals may be poor or even unavailable. In situations like this, hunters rely on essential survival items such as rope, fermented corn bait, wooden pegs, and keen observation. Fermentation of the maize over a period of several days results in the production of a potent, sour odor that is carried through the humid air and attracts wild boars from a distance of hundreds of meters. But the bait needs to be positioned with care. When it comes to selecting specific trap settings, hunters spend several days analyzing movement patterns, disturbed soil, and tracks left behind by animals. In Madison at the time, the ground was soft and wet, conditions in which a single misstep could result in sinking up to the knees without any effort on the part of the individual. For the purpose of securing the traps, large stakes made of wood or steel frames were firmly attached to trees in the vicinity using strong rope. The arrival of a huge herd of wild boars occurred several hours sooner than anticipated during a night that was marked by strong rain and wind. The construction of the trap became unstable as a result of the dislodgement of one of the primary support stakes. The rest of the herd was led directly into the area by a gigantic sow that was almost the size of a domestic refrigerator. She was able to force her way through the weakened trap. The animals did not retreat but rather moved forward in the direction of the encampment. As the situation became more chaotic, flashlights were dropped, boots lost their hold, and the tension in the situation increased. There was a sudden explosion of loud sounds, and the animals' eyes reflected the sparks from the flashlights. It was no longer a matter of capturing animals at that precise moment. Rather, it began to become a matter of survival. As dawn broke, the aftermath revealed deep tracks, trees that had been harmed, and a trap that had been demolished. The steel frames had been ripped away from their respective foundations. This was not a random occurrence, as became abundantly evident. These wild boars had not only wreaked havoc on the region, but they had also made use of it. An increase in safeguards was implemented as a reaction. Drone surveillance was implemented, shift rotations were shortened, and security patrols were increased by a factor of 2. GPS chips were implanted on each and every trap, and alarms that were activated by vibration were placed all around the perimeter. Before being deployed on bigger herds of wild boars, each new trap initially underwent testing on smaller groups of wild boars. The most significant thing that I discovered was that wild boars do not have any fear of being caught in traps. They only react to the determined actions of humans. Decisions of essential importance need to be made in situations such as these. Is it more prudent to utilize a trap that is more compact and simple to control? That is, to take the chance of a larger, more complicated structure that might collapse under pressure. Each of these decisions has the potential to impact whether or not an entire crop is salvaged. While this is going on, the wild boar problem is continuing to worsen in areas such as Alberta and California. In addition to this, I want to say that wild boars are not only a danger to crops, they also cause disruptions to the environment. Wild boars are considered an invasive species because they outcompete native animals for food and territory, particularly in North America, where they do not have any natural predators or natural enemies. The delicate underlayers of forest ecosystems are destroyed as a result of their rooting behavior, which involves digging through the soil in search of insects and roots. This results in an increase in erosion, the extinction of native plant species, and the disruption of populations of ground-nesting birds and small mammals. In the past few years, researchers have been able to observe how the nocturnal behaviors of wild boars are adjusting to accommodate the activities of humans. In areas with a high population density, boars have changed their daily activity schedules in order to avoid being discovered. They frequently move stealthily while it is dark outside. The infiltration of suburban areas is accomplished through the utilization of drainage ditches, abandoned culverts, and stormwater tunnels. This results in unanticipated encounters in the late hours of the night, near residential garbage cans, schoolyards, or even parking lots. As a direct result of this, public officials responsible for wildlife management have begun collaborating closely with urban planners. Through the analysis of the patterns of movement captured by individuals who have been fitted with GPS collars, specialists have developed predictive models to anticipate the migration paths of boars. The implementation of green belts, fencing strategies, and wildlife corridors that divert boars away from human infrastructure has been improved as a result of these insights. The fact remains, however, that deterrence is only one component of the equation. Controlled culling efforts have been implemented in certain regions, despite the fact that these efforts are met with significant controversy. Animal rights organizations advocate for treatments that do not involve the use of lethal force, such as fertility control methods or relocation programs. On the other hand, non-lethal methods are frequently ineffective on their own because of the high reproductive rate of wild boars, which can result in a single sow having 2 litters of up to 6 piglets in a single year. Educational campaigns are being launched to inform farmers and homeowners about preventative strategies. These campaigns are being launched as a complementary measure to population control. Among these are the installation of motion-activated lights and alarms, the burying of electric fencing several inches below ground to prevent digging, and the avoidance of leaving food waste or pet feed outside overnight. Additionally, farmers are strongly encouraged to immediately report any sightings to wildlife authorities in order to facilitate a prompt response. Collaborations between researchers from different countries have been sparked as a result of data collected from conflict zones such as Mississippi. In order to investigate the ways in which wild boars adapt to different continents, universities in Canada, Germany, and Japan have begun comparative research projects. Not only do these studies investigate the physical behaviors, but they also investigate the neurological and hormonal responses that may be responsible for why their group dynamics are becoming increasingly complex. Some researchers now believe that the intelligence of wild boars is significantly underestimated, which is perhaps the most surprising piece of information. A high level of cognitive function is indicated by the fact that they are able to overcome obstacles, remember the locations of bait stations, and coordinate their movement across challenging terrain. A re-evaluation of the ways in which humans interact with and manage this species is being compelled by the new understanding that is emerging. As we look to the future, it is likely that long-term solutions will require a combination of high-tech surveillance, community engagement, international cooperation, and ongoing adaptation. The wild boar population may expand further into new territories as a result of climate change, which will alter habitats and the availability of food. The problem is no longer confined to the realm of local agriculture. Rather, it has become a global concern that affects both the environment and public safety. In conclusion, what was once thought to be a straightforward nuisance in rural areas has developed into a problem that affects wildlife all over the world. Not only are wild boars testing traps, but they are also testing the ability of humans to be prepared for emergencies. Additionally, as their numbers continue to increase, those who are working to protect land, ecosystems, and communities from their path must also continue to innovate and remain determined in order to successfully do so.